What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer doing a complete kind of breakdown of this Monarch Eldlich build. So this is going to be known as the complete guide. I think I'm going to try to make this a series. I did this for ABC Cyber Dragon, and now I'm going to do it for this. I'm going to show you the deck list for both the TCG and Master Duel. They're essentially the exact same. Very few differences. I'm going to show some combos, and I'm going to show just a tad bit of a bonus gameplay there to wrap it all up in a nice bow. So we'll go ahead and look here at the TCG list. Obviously, Illusion of Chaos is out now, which makes a huge difference. I mean, it feels like this is like one of the only playable versions of the deck, simply because of how much advantage that Magician Souls can give you. Probably this deck utilizes Magician Souls better than Dark Magician does. I know there's that Cyberus Eldlich deck that uses it too. But I would argue that this is even better. Potential +4 in card advantage, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. But 2 Eldlich, 2 Erebus the Golden Lord, 1 Caius. This card's kind of weird, but it does serve a pretty decent purpose. It does target a card on the field, but it does banish it, so it does come up quite a bit. Unfortunately, it's a mandatory effect, which really stinks, but if you tribute using a dark monster, which is what Magician Souls is, you get to banish 2 cards instead. So it's kind of like too good not to use. Ether, the Heavenly Monarch. Of course, you want to run 2 because normally what you're going to summon off of Ether is Ether itself. Vanity's Ruler is just a nice one of in the deck. It's a tech card I've been playing for a long time. It's cool to see, but you can't possibly afford to see 2 copies in your opening hand, so you can only play it at 1. One of the Luminous Lunar Dragon. It's also a decent target off of Ether. It's the main target, but there is a side deck option, which I will show you in the combo tutorials there. Combos, I say that word very lightly. I call this card Anchima Frofrit, but I think it's I know it is Unit Camouflage. I wish I would have kept the card, but who knows what it's called. It literally looks like Anchima Frofrit to me, but Magician Souls here at 3, along with the 2 Illusion of Chaos. There's some decent choices, and I'll show those as alternates for Master Duel because this card isn't out yet in the game. 3 Pantheism, 1 Tenacity of the Monarchs to go along with 2 Domain of the Monarchs. I like to have it as a flex spot here. Basically, like most of the time, you're going to grab Domain, but every once in a blue moon, you're going to need this Monarch Stormforth. So I do run this at 1 copy, and this is just like a really big flex spot, for the deck. 2 Cursed Eldlin. I've cut this down. It is at 2, obviously, in Master Duel already, so it just kind of fits in. I run 3 Infinite Impermanence for a couple of reasons. It's like, well, it's one of your only going second cards outside of Eldlich, which is a really good going second card in this deck, because you can discard stuff like Pantheism, you can set and tribute it, lots of other good stuff like that. But this is also a card that you can set to use with Eldlich, which is really the most important part, and potentially provides a little bit of disturbance. Potentially can also negate some important continuous spells and traps that your opponent may have, or maybe activate in that column just in general. So Infinite Impermanence does play a pretty important role when it's all said and done. 3 Scarlet Sanguine, of course, you definitely want to have access to your Eldlich as much as possible. 2 Conquistador, 1 Hawkero, and 1 Golden Land Forever. This is the golden ratio for me when it comes to Eldlich. Whenever I use Eldlich as a package, these are always the ratios that I use. Maybe I use Cursed Eldlin at 3 sometimes, but yeah, I'm pretty happy. I mean, you could go 41 cards, but it just seems kind of silly. 3 of the Monarchs are up. I think it's better than Domain of the Monarchs because it's just more ubiquitously good, if that makes sense. And then the 2 of the Prime Monarch. Good discard fodder off of Pantheism. It's good to set, for Eldlich. It's good to send off of Eldlich. So this card definitely has a lot of utility. Onto the extra deck, because there is the 3 spots here, and technically if your opponent isn't playing an extra deck dependent deck, you can side out Domain of the True Monarchs, but a couple of Nibiru's, 3 Kaijus. This is one of my favorite tech cards in the basically in the game, which is the Dark Simorgh. During your opponent's turn, they can't set cards, so if you're playing against something like Eldlich or playing against a very trap heavy deck, being able to summon this card during your opponent's turn is going to make a big difference. It's also decent normal summon fodder, right? It can kind of replace Vanity's Ruler or anything else like that. 3 Lancia, 3 Joel, and 3 Dark Ruler or more. You need to play very high impact cards if you're going second, if you want to have a chance to win that duel. We'll go over to the other side here. I believe this is where it's at. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. The three, obviously, of the Magician Souls. Okay, so you see one copy of Maxi, but really this is just supposed to be three copies of Infinite Impermanence. Or you could run three Maxi, obviously, this card's very good. But because of how weird the format is in Master Duel, when you only play one duel, I feel like you can get more use out of Infinite Impermanence. Because if this card's a dud in your hand, you're probably going to lose that duel 90% of the time. Versus this, which you almost always know that you're going to be able to use. To the Ancient Frofrit, and this was what I was talking about when it came to tech cards here. So, Cybernetic Magician has 24 attack and 1000 defense. Now, the probable smart thing to do would be to run this at 2 because it does work with Tenacity of the Monarchs, right? 2400 attack, 1000 defense, and Dark Magician of Chaos doesn't fulfill those requirements. Really, they're just targets for Magician's Souls, but it's good to have as much synergy as humanly possible, right? Because these two targets, the Dark Magician of Chaos and the Cybernetic Magician, can be sent off of Magician's Souls, as well as, like I talked about, having that being able to be used with Tenacity of the Monarchs. One of the reasons I use this card is because it adds a spell back to your hand, which obviously there's some very high impact spells in this deck. But like I said, probably the smart thing to do would be just to run 2 Cybernetic Magician. But it's good to kind of showcase this because I feel like it could be a decent option for people out there. The Luminous Lunar Dragon, like I've talked about in the last one, the Vanity's Ruler, most of this is going to be exactly the same. Caius, 2 of the Ether, 2 Erebus, 2 Eldlich of the Golden Lord, the 1 Tenacity of the Monarch, 3 Pantheism, a couple of Domain of the True Monarchs, a couple of the Cursed Eldlin, 1 the Monarch Stormforth, 2 Infinite Permanents, really it should be 3 Scarlet Sanguine, Golden Castle Forever, 3 of the Monarchs Erupt, the Prime Monarch, Hakero, and last but not least 2 Conquistador. There's no side deck and there's no extra deck, so this deck really is quite affordable when it comes to Master Duel. The only thing that you really got to swallow, I don't know why this card's an ultra rare, I think that's kind of ridiculous, but Magician's Souls obviously is a pretty steep cost, and hopefully Illusion of Chaos doesn't come too far from now, because I really don't particularly enjoy playing Cybernetic Magician and the Dark Magician of Chaos, because having Magician's Souls is just a little too important because of that potential +4. We'll go ahead and make our way back over to some combos here. I call them combos. It's a very loose version of what that means, but this is what I was talking about when it comes to sighting in. This is a 3-card combo, but really it's just I don't even use the effect of Magician's Souls. I'll show this off. I'll show that off in the next replay, but Ether can summon Ether, basically, and then you can dump a couple of your spells and traps, which is going to be Pantheism and the Prime Monarch. And then during your opponent's turn at any point, whenever they make their first play, you can go ahead and summon out the Dark Simorgh, because this doesn't have to be tributed. When this card's on the field, your opponent cannot set cards on. They can't set cards, which is obviously a really decent floodgate depending on what you're playing against. Fluendoise, potentially, because they can't set the Dreaming Town, which is really good. That could make a difference. Eldlich, of course, depends very much on setting those spells and traps. And anything else you can think of, but it's in the side deck because it is technically niche. Your opponent isn't always going to be setting cards. This is where that +4 comes in, which is just really, really crazy. And I'll explain what that means. I guess you could say more when it comes to Cursed Eldlin. But the cool thing is you can sun the Cursed Eldlin, which is going to send you Conquistador, but you can also send something like Pantheism. And in the case of this fake hand, you didn't have any use for Pantheism. You didn't have any Monarch spells and traps in your hand, but being able to send it to the graveyard can make a big, big difference, like it is here. So Cursed Eldlin is giving you a +1, Pantheism is giving you a +2, and you're also drawing 2 fresh cards, making that a potential +4, which is kind of nuts. So then the Pantheism can search you something. Like I said, I run 3 copies, or 2 copies of Domain and the 1 copy of the Tenacity of the Monarch, basically. I always, usually, whenever I get the opportunity, set Golden Land Forever, off of Scarlet if I have the potential to do that, or I usually search it off of Cursed Eldlin, because once your opponent's domain locked, you're winning the duel 90% of the time. Now, they may have one out to it, but if you do have the answer, you can go ahead and use that, right? And I will show off one more combo, quote unquote. This is kind of a full hand, but there's a few interactions that are Very, very important. So we've already shown one way to use Pantheism when you don't have another Monarch spell in your hand. And here's another. If you have Cursed Eldlin, obviously you can search. You can like send something like Scarlet from your hand to get rid of the Cursed Eldlin. Everything at that point replaces itself, which is kind of neat. But you can also set Pantheism to the field, use the Monarch's or the Eldritch effect to special summon it, and then you can use Pantheism effect to make sure that you do get the Erebus to your hand. You're going to shuffle one card from your opponent. So even though it looked like I negged really bad there, I actually end up going +0, but the +0 ends up working out a lot better because your opponent is domain locked, plus it's protected, by an Omni Negate, which is super duper duper important. I'll go ahead and show off these replays here, and that will be the finale. I am playing Evil Twin. This is a match. I'm going second in this case, which really isn't great. This isn't the greatest deck ever. I would definitely label it as casual, but it does have some pretty high ceiling. So I feel like at this point, if I can just lock my opponent from being able to go into the extra deck, I might have a chance to win this duel. The first thing to do is I'm going to have to get rid of this Trouble Sunny as quick as humanly possible. He's going to try to hold on to the Tcg because he wants to be able to pop a card, but all I have to do is go ahead and go into the battle phase to ensure that this effect doesn't go through. Domain of the True Monarchs can go through. Having Luminous Lunar Dragon in your hand is great because it is a level 6, so it only requires 1 tribute, which most of the Monarchs obviously are 2. All of it depends on if you have Domain, but yeah, pretty neat that I was able to use the Luminous Lunar Dragon there. Now that he's domain locked plus the Domain of the True Monarchs, he's going to get rid of one of them with Evil Trouble, or the Trouble Sunny, but he still is domain locked, meaning that they can't do anything. So he did end up surrendering there. And this was the other duel, in that match. He has Effect Veiler, Nibiru, Infinite Impermanence, and Forbidden Droplets, which is obviously quite good, but maybe not enough for me. I'm never going to summon 5 times on the turn, so this card's obviously a dud in his hand. I'm only going to send 1 potentially here. Hoping, assuming that he probably has a hand trap, which he did. I'll attack for some damage there. I did have Vanity's Ruler, which is funny. Only 1 card, but when it comes to a deck like this, I don't think it's going to be enough. I can go ahead and set the Prime Monarch, set this here, put this down at this point, and get through. Now, if he doesn't open a play starter here, the duel is just over. So he did only have hand traps, but wasn't enough to stop my plays. Vanity Rulers did come up quite clutch there, if I do say so myself. And the last, so there's going to be super casual. This is like a really good looking hand. I can go ahead and send Pantheism because I already have the Monarchs are up there, and I can grab the Tenacity, which is going to grab me Domain. Now I can have Erebus. I'm going to shuffle 1 card from his hand back into the deck. Ends up being a trap, which is pretty cool. I can bring this out by banishing the Tenacity, potentially giving myself the opportunity to use it again next turn if I need to. And Pot of Extravagance comes down, but I don't think it's going to be enough necessarily, especially with the Monarchs are up, so we can't go into the extra deck. You can't activate monster effects. A couple of attack boosters here, but it's definitely no good. Doesn't really do anything at all. He's going to get rid of my Spell and Trap there, which is Imperm. I'm surprised he didn't try to go for the Monarchs are up or Domain, but okay. I can send a couple of cards, shuffle 1 back from his hand, and I think this is going to be well than enough for lethal. So that was a pretty decent duel there. It's a lot of this fairy deck. I mean, I might as well show it because I'm not too interested in it. I made a video about it when it first came out, but yeah, probably not too good. I am going second once again here, and then he just goes into this card. Interesting. I do get rid of the Solemn Strike there, which is kind of cool. Not too bad. I can set the Prime Monarch like I did in order to get it to the graveyard. Now, I don't have any Monarch spells and traps, but still pretty decent interaction there. And he did end up surrendering. Only 2, maybe 3 more duels here. He was playing Tennies, and I think he's playing the Tennies because some of the fairy monsters combined can make Naturia Beast, but nothing here. He has Call by the Grave and a couple of the traps, although one of them I think bounces back and depends on him having a card, or not a card, a fairy monster, so that's not going to do anything there. And he doesn't have any of these monsters in the graveyard, but now he does, so he's going to be able to make some sort of play. He's going to go ahead and special summon that back, or maybe add it to his hand. He's going to special summon there to add to the continuous spell. He is still domain lock, which is pretty interesting. And I think once he realized that, the duel's over. And I still have the Monarchs are up, but sometimes I like to hold it as much as I possibly can. Because I want to be able to use effects like Magician Souls if I can. If not, no big deal, right? Again, same idea. This hand looks just as good. Infinite Permanence obviously is a very decent going second card. It can be very high impact depending on when you use it. And there goes the Notoria Beast. And here I absolutely needed it because he was going to have infinite gates for these spells in my hand, which I really, really needed. I don't know why he tries to activate the effect. Maybe he wants to just, mill some cards. Go ahead and get rid of the back row. He chained Solemn Strike, but really I think he should have just saved the life points, because that doesn't do absolutely anything. And now I've kind of officially broken his board, if you will. I can grab the Monarch's Erupt. I can send that Erebus down, attack over this, shuffle back, his continuous spell, and then go from there. Last but not least, I think, again, it's kind of the same idea. It's Aquamancers, I believe it's called. Magician of Chaos. Being able to send Scarlet Sanguine in the Pantheism, I mean, it just truly doesn't get better than that. I already have Tribute Fodder here. In the form of the Ether, going, so much plus. I end up getting an Illusion of Chaos and Scarlet Sanguine, which is kind of like the worst draw you could possibly get, but, beggars certainly cannot be choosers. And I wanted to show this duel last because of an important thing. I should have maybe waited for Scarlet Sanguine because I did end up sighting in the Simorgh, and I forgot that Scarlet Sanguine locks you into zombie monsters. So I did have to summon up an Erebus. Now, the Erebus is pretty cool to have in hand because I can certainly use it as tribute fodder during my turn. But yeah, I really wanted to send some work because I knew he was playing a Spell and Trap heavy deck. Definitely could have waited till main phase 1 to use Ether. Now, that's not playing around Lightning Strike, which kind of is unfortunate, but I think that's kind of a worthy thing to wait for, especially when I know my opponent is playing so many spells and traps. And more than anything, I would have also, once the Simorgh gets bounced by hand during the end phase, I would have been able to normal summon it too, which is also super important. As of right now, he has no way to get around this Erebus, which has 1,000 attack, which is kind of unfortunate, but yeah. Infinite Permanence, once again, almost a necessity in this deck. And because of Magician Souls, because of Eldlich, and I would even say that in Master Duel too. Erebus can go ahead and get flipped back up. I can normal summon the Eldlich, which is kind of funny. Domain lock my opponent, through that means as well. And with Dark Bribe here, I don't think that's going to do anything. He let time run out, but I think that's probably because he realized that there was nothing going for him. But yeah, that is the complete guide to Eldlich, to Monarch Eldlich. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that, that's going to do it for today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.